The crystal wine glasses clinked as Sophia Richardson raised a toast, her perfectly manicured hands steady despite the third glass of Bordeaux. "To family success," she announced, her eyes fixing on me with barely concealed disdain. While the rest of the family celebrated their supposed success, I sat quietly at the massive dining table, watching my mother-in-law perform for her usual Sunday dinner audience. My husband Michael drifted uncomfortably beside me but remained silent. He never did have the courage to stand up to his mother. "Such a shame about your little boutique, Sarah," Sophia continued, false sympathy dripping from every word. "I warned Michael that retail was such a risky business. Not everyone is cut out for the corporate world. My name is Sarah Jeanne, and at 34, I was watching my mother-in-law celebrate what she thought was my financial ruin after 2 years of her careful sabotage. She believed she had finally succeeded in proving I wasn't worthy of her precious son or the Richardson family name. These things happen," I said mildly, taking a small sip of wine. "Business is unpredictable." Sophia's smile widened. She loved it when I played the defeated daughter-in-law. "Of course, dear. Not everyone can build something lasting like Richardson Beauty. 30 years of success doesn't come easily." I thought about the documents sitting in my home office, signed and ready for tomorrow morning's board meeting. Sophia had no idea that while she'd been busy destroying my small chain of boutiques, I'd been orchestrating the biggest business coup in her company's history. "Mom," Michael attempted weakly, "maybe we should talk about something else." "Why?" Sophia cut him off. "We need to discuss your future, Michael. Now that Sarah's financial situation has changed, perhaps it's time to consider other options." I knew exactly what she meant by other options. Rebecca Holmes, the daughter of Sophia's best friend, had recently returned to town after her divorce. Sophia had been not so subtly pushing her toward Michael for months. My phone buzzed quietly. A message from Daniel, my lawyer. "Everything's set for tomorrow. Board votes confirmed. She won't know what hit her." I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment to compose myself. In the massive marble bathroom of the Richardson mansion, I stared at my reflection and thought about how it had all started 3 years ago. I'd been the rising star of the retail world. My boutique chain, Urban Chic, was expanding rapidly, featured in major fashion magazines, and attracting attention from luxury brands. Then I made what Sophia considered my fatal mistake. I married her son. Michael and I had met at a charity gala. He was sweet, kind, and completely dominated by his mother. But I loved him and foolishly thought love would be enough to overcome Sophia's disapproval of my new money status and Chinese-American background. The sabotage started small. Sophia would casually mention to her society friends that my boutiques were having quality issues. Key suppliers suddenly canceled contracts. Landlords unexpectedly raised rents or refused to renew leases. Each problem seemed random, but I knew better. What Sophia didn't know was that I'd been recording everything. Every casual phone call where she urged suppliers to drop me, every meeting where she pressured property owners, every subtle threat she made to anyone who did business with Urban Chic. But more importantly, she never bothered to look closely at the group of investment firms that had been quietly buying up shares of Richardson Beauty over the past year. Why would she? The companies all seemed independent, legitimate, with no connection to me. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. "Final share count confirmed. You control 62% through the holding companies. Board meeting scheduled for 9:00 a.m. I returned to the dining room just as Sophia was starting another story about her business success. "It's all about connections, really," she was saying. "The right people, the right background. You understand, Sarah." "Perfectly," I replied, thinking about the connections I'd made while building my case against her. The suppliers who'd provided documentation of her interference, the property owners who'd recorded her threats, the executives at her company who were tired of her outdated leadership and discriminatory practices. Michael touched my hand under the table, a small gesture of support he only dared when his mother wasn't looking. He had no idea what was coming either. I kept him in the dark to protect him and to ensure his reactions tomorrow would be genuine. "More wine, Sarah?" Sophie offered, her smile sharp. "Drown your sorrows?" "No, thank you," I said. "I have an early meeting tomorrow." She couldn't resist the opening. "Oh, still trying to save your little shops. Sometimes it's better to just admit defeat gracefully." I thought about the times I cried in private over her sabotage, the nights spent rebuilding after each attack, the careful planning and patience it had taken to turn her own tactics against her. Actually, I said, it's a corporate consulting meeting. I've been exploring new opportunities. Sophia's smile turned condescending. How nice. Perhaps something more appropriate to your skills. Retail sales, perhaps. Michael started to object, but I squeezed his hand, stopping him. Let her have this moment. Let her think she'd won. Tomorrow would be soon enough for truth. As dinner wound down, Sophia pulled Michael aside for a private word, one she ensured was just loud enough for me to hear. Rebecca is looking lovely since her return, she said. You remember how close you two were in college. Sometimes first choices aren't the best choices, darling. I gathered my things, pretending not to hear. Sophia Richardson had spent 3 years trying to drive me out of her family and destroy my business. She thought she'd succeeded. In less than 12 hours, she would learn how wrong she was. Sarah, she called as we were leaving. Don't be a stranger just because things didn't work out with your business. Doesn't mean you're not still family, in a way. I turned back, unable to resist one small hint. Thank you, Sophia. You've taught me so much about business, about how to acquire things people don't want to let go of, about patience. Tomorrow should be interesting. She frowned slightly, but I was already walking out, Michael following behind me. In the car, he'd apologized again for his mother's behavior. I don't know why she's like this. I should have said something. It's fine, I assured him. Everything's going to change very soon. What do you mean? I patted his hand. Just be ready for tomorrow's news, and remember that I love you. That night, I reviewed everything one final time. The evidence of Sophia's sabotage carefully compiled and ready to be released if needed. The shareholding documents showing my controlling interest in Richardson Beauty. The board votes already secured. My phone lit up with a final message from Daniel. All systems go for tomorrow. Sophia won't know what hit her. I smiled, thinking of Sophia's smug toast to family success. Tomorrow would redefine exactly what that meant. The Richardson Beauty boardroom felt different at 8:45 a.m. as I took my seat at the head of the table, Sophia's usual chair, but she didn't know that yet. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see her arriving in the parking lot, striding toward the building with her usual air of entitlement. Are you sure about this? Daniel asked quietly, arranging the documents we need. Once we start, there's no going back. I nodded, thinking of all the nights I'd spent building up to this moment. She chose this path, Daniel. She just didn't expect anyone to fight back. Sophia swept into the room at exactly 9:00 a.m., faltering slightly when she saw me. Sarah, what are you doing here? Her eyes narrowed as she noticed me in her seat. That's my place. Not anymore, I said calmly as the other board members filed in. Please take any other seat. We have a lot to discuss. This is ridiculous, she snapped, remaining standing. I'm the CEO of this company. I don't know what game you're playing. Actually, Daniel interrupted smoothly, as of this morning, Ms. Zhang is the majority shareholder of Richardson Beauty, controlling 62% of voting shares through various investment vehicles. This emergency board meeting has been called to address the leadership transition. The color drained from Sophia's face. That's impossible. I would know if someone was buying up shares. Would you? I asked, opening the folder in front of me. Like you knew who was really behind the Pacific Ridge Investment Group or Summit Valley Holdings? You've been so busy trying to destroy my business that you never noticed who was buying into yours. The other board members were watching with barely concealed interest. Many of them had their own stories of Sophia's tyrannical leadership and discriminatory practices. This is absurd, Sophia sputtered. Michael will never allow. The boardroom door opened and Michael walked in. I called him early this morning, finally explaining everything. He looked pale but determined. Hello, Mother, he said quietly, taking a seat beside me. Sophia's face twisted with rage and betrayal. You knew about this? I just found out, Michael replied. And after hearing everything, all the ways you tried to destroy Sarah's business, all the manipulation, I fully support her taking control. The votes are already secured, Daniel added, distributing documents to everyone. The board has agreed that a change in leadership is necessary for the company's continued growth and ethical operation. I watched Sophia's carefully maintained facade crack as she realized the depth of what was happening. You can't do this to me, she whispered. This company is my life. Like my business was mine? I asked quietly. before you systematically destroyed it. I have evidence of everything, Sophia. Every threat, every manipulated contract, every sabotaged deal. I projected the evidence onto the boardroom screen. Emails, recorded conversations, sworn statements from suppliers and property owners. 3 years of careful documentation of her campaign against me. You could have just accepted me, I said as she sank into a chair, watching her carefully constructed world crumble. Could have given me a chance to prove myself. Instead, you decided I wasn't good enough for your son or your social circle, so you tried to break me. The board members were reviewing the evidence with growing concern. Sophia's actions hadn't just been personal, they'd been unethical and potentially illegal. What do you want? Sophia finally asked, her voice hollow. I want what I've earned, I replied. Control of this company, a chance to modernize it, expand it, make it better than it ever was under your leadership. And I want you to understand exactly how it feels to have everything taken away by someone you underestimated. Daniel began distributing the severance agreements we prepared. You can exit gracefully, I told Sophia. Keep your social standing, your country club memberships, your place in society. Or you can fight, and I'll release everything I have to the press. Your choice. Her hands shook as she read the documents. You thought of everything, haven't you? I learned from the best, I said. You taught me that patience and careful planning are everything in business, and sometimes you have to let your opponent think they're winning before you make your final move. The next hour was a blur of signatures and legal terminology. Sophia signed everything put in front of her, her perfect makeup failing to hide her devastation. By 10:30, she was no longer CEO of Richardson Beauty. As she stood to leave, she turned to Michael one last time. She planned this all along, she said bitterly. She married you to get to me. Michael shook his head. No, Mother. I married her because I loved her. You're the one who turned it into a war. And you lost. After Sophia left, the board quickly approved the transition plan we developed. By noon, I was officially CEO of Richardson Beauty, with a mandate to modernize and expand the company. That evening, Michael and I sat in our home office, processing everything that had happened. I wish you'd told me sooner, he said quietly. I needed to protect you, I explained, and I needed your reactions to be genuine. Your mother had to believe you knew nothing. He nodded slowly. What happens now? Now we rebuild, both the company and our family, but on different terms. Over the next few months, Richardson Beauty underwent a transformation. We launched new product lines, modernized our marketing, and expanded into international markets. The stock price soared. Sophia retreated to her country house, emerging only occasionally for carefully selected social events. The whispers followed her, about how her Chinese-American daughter-in-law had outmaneuvered her, taken her company, proven herself more than worthy of the Richardson name. A year later, I sat in what had been Sophia's office, reviewing quarterly reports. The company was thriving, our market share growing. The phone rang, Sophia's number. I understand now, she said without preamble. What I did to you, what it feels like. That was the point, I replied. The company, it's doing better than ever. Yes. A long pause. Perhaps I was wrong about you. About everything. I thought about the years of pain she caused, the nights I had spent crying over her sabotage, the careful planning it had taken to turn it all around. Yes, I said simply. Another pause. Michael mentioned you're expecting a girl. Due in March. I would like to be part of her life, if you'll allow it. I looked at the family photo on my desk. Michael and me at last year's company gala, both smiling genuinely for the first time in years. We can try, I said carefully, but things will be different. No manipulation, no games, no trying to control everything. I understand, she said quietly. You've certainly proved you're stronger than I thought. After we hung up, I walked to the window, looking out over the city. Sophia had spent years trying to prove I wasn't good enough for her family or her company. In defeating her, I proved her right. I wasn't just good enough, I was better. The company flourished under my leadership, expanding into new markets and product lines. Michael found his own strength, starting a charitable foundation that worked to support small businesses affected by corporate bullying. And Sophia, she learned what it meant to be on the other side of power, to have to ask instead of demand, to accept instead of control. Sometimes at family gatherings, I catch her watching me, not with the old contempt, but with something like respect. She's learned that true power isn't about destroying others to maintain control. It's about building something stronger from the ashes of what others tried to destroy.